Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Today, we have in my very little hands the Spyderco Alcyone. This is part of a pairing. This is the smaller one. They also have one called the Polestar, which is a bit larger. I've seen a few reviews of the Polestar, not many of the Alcyone, and I got this in a package deal. Thought maybe you guys would like a little review of it, so we're going to get into it. But to get into it, we kind of have to give a bit of history here. So Spyderco, for quite a while, has had the Tenacious, which is the size of the Polestar that I mentioned earlier, and the Persistence, which is the size of this Alcyone. They are made in China with 8CR13 MOV steel. This is the fancy carbon fiber one, but most of them are black G10 or other color G10s. They come in lots of different colors and stuff. Very popular entry-level Spyderco. I've recommended them to a lot of people, including my son. This is my son's knife. You can tell because it's set up lefty. He's a filthy little lefty. So this is his knife. So obviously, I like the Tenacious. I recommended it to my son. He got one, and it's pretty cool. But they also now recently, I guess a couple years ago, came out with the Bird Raven 2 and the Crow 2, which the Crow 2 is the size of this, much like the Persistence is, about the exact same size. Those came in BD1 steel, which I think we will all agree is better than 8CR13 MOV. I know I definitely think that. But they were Birds. In the finish quality, in my experience, I have not owned one, but I've held a lot of them and used them. The quality on the Raven 2, just the finish on the Raven 2 and the Crow 2 weren't quite as nice as the Tenacious or the Persistence, so you kind of wound up having to choose between a nice finish quality. They weren't bad, but they weren't as good. You had to choose between really nice finish quality or better steel. Now, Spyderco decided to show what they could really do with the budget line, so they kind of combined the two. So now you have this, the Alcyone and the Polestar, which are basically more the same kind of design as the Tenacious and Persistence, because the Birds have forward finger choils and they're a little bit different. So they decided to take the design of the Tenacious and the Persistence and make it into a fancier knife with BD1 steel. Not a bad choice. The price went up a little bit. These are $62 for either the Bird or the Tenacious and Persistence. Either of the Birds I mentioned, or the Tenacious or the Persistence, you're looking at right around about $45 for any of those. This is $62, so it is significantly more expensive, but I do have to say the quality is a bit better. This just does feel a bit smoother. All the edges are a bit smoother. I tore this apart, put it back together just because I always do that, just to look and see what's inside. The screw quality, I think, is a bit better than the Tenacious. I've torn the Tenacious apart before, and I had to be really careful not to strip screws. I didn't feel that way with this. This wasn't chocker box full of Loctite like the Tenacious was. I like the look of this G10. Is they did this kind of plaid finish. Now, I will say, not everyone's going to love the plaid. It's gray, though. It's not a obtrusive color. It's not like it's orange and green plaid. But I am half Irish, half Scottish. I am a genetically engineered alcoholic, is how I describe my heritage. So, yeah, I like the plaid. Maybe some people won't, but they call it a peel ply G10, but it is full G10. Non-nested liners, but they're very skeletonized, and no sharp edges anywhere when you rub your hands over it. It is a very quality piece. It does feel like a $60 knife. It really does, and that's what they were going for. Now, let's get into the specs before we get too much farther in this. Let's do the overall length. You're looking at just over 7 inches. Blade length of 2.9 inches, so just under 3 inches. Cutting edge is a little bit shorter, more like 2 3/4. You're looking at a handle length of 4.1 inches and a very good weight of 3.3 ounces. So not bad, especially not having nested liners or anything. They're skeletonized pretty well, but still, like that's pretty good weight. 3.3 ounces is not bad at all for a knife this size, for a 3-inch EDC kind of knife. You have a blade thickness of 0.11 inches, which I really like. I do like the thin little slicey Spyderco blades, especially in a knife this size. We'll get to that later in the blade. But in a knife this size, you don't need anything super crazy, big and beefy. Very, very good. The specs are perfectly what you'd expect, again, in this price range and this kind of size knife. Now let's do some size comparisons. Let's look at some of its competitors in the Spyderco lineup. I already showed you the Tenacious. I'm not going to do that again, but we have the Native 5 Lightweight. This is, you're looking at, this is like 95 bucks, but it's S35 VN, but you know, it's still that same kind of size and weight. This is actually a little bit lighter. Class, you have the Delica 4, which is about 10 bucks more. Not as nice as steel, but still about the same kind of size. And now let's go to some other stuff. Let's look at the knives I think people are comparing this to. I don't think people really compare, and I think this may be why this came out, because before I get to these next two knives, let me go off the track a little bit. I don't think many people compare a Tenacious or a Persistence to these next two knives, because they know it's got, if they know what they're doing, they know it has inferior steel. They just want a Spyderco. They want that, the ergonomics and stuff like that. But if you're actually comparing, you know, just for the steel and what you're getting bang for the buck, these are two that will compare very well. The Steel Will Mini Cut Jack. This is the 3-inch version. And let's look at your R2D2, the Rat Model 2 in D2 steel. Both of those are more like around the $40 range. And last but not least, if you're comparing this to something you want to spend a little bit more money, we have for 80 bucks, the Kaiser Vanguard Gemini, which Kaiser has a lot of sales all the time. Trust me, I know, because I tried to sell a couple Kaisers and the prices are all over the place, so nobody wants to buy them. So this is 80 bucks, but if you search around, if you're patient, you can find Kaisers for, especially the Vanguards, for a lot cheaper here and there. Occasionally they pop up, then they go away, then they're back again. So that's it for your size comparisons. Look at the blade on this. This is my favorite thing about this knife, I think, actually, is I really like the blade. As I said, it is CTS BD1. Really good steel. One of my favorite knives is also a Spyderco in BD1. That is the Manix 2 Lightweight. Now, that is a Colorado-made Spyderco, so probably not the same heat treat and stuff. But I've been using this a fair bit, and I haven't really had any problems with it. I cut not acres of cardboard, but a bit, or more than a bit, a fair bit, and it's still really sharp, still paper cutting sharp. And BD1 is super easy to sharpen. It's not hard at all. So if you have any kind of sharpening stuff at all, even a cheap basic kit, you'll be fine. I've not tuned this up, but I may. I would just hit it, you know, on my little, I have one of those little Lansky box things, and I would just hit it on that. Probably not even using the diamond. I'd probably just hit it on the ceramics and it would be fine. But it's pretty good. I have no problems with it. And I like the shape. I like that it's thin, full flat grind. It's very slicey. It's great for hacking through cardboard, opening boxes, your typical EDC task. And that's what this knife is. It's an EDC kind of knife. It's not a heavy duty, you know, beater knife. It's not meant to be. It's in this, if you want something like that, you know, the bigger one, maybe you could do some more stuff with. This is only a 3-inch blade. It's not meant to be super heavy duty. So I think for this knife, this blade is just about perfect. I have no problem with the BD1. I might slightly prefer D2, but you know, Spyderco doesn't do a lot of D2, so I think BD1 was kind of their compromise on that, I guess. Ergonomically, also excellent. On this knife, it does not have the forward finger choil, like I said, that the birds do, but I don't miss it on this knife at all, because it's less than 3-inch blade. You can still choke up here. As I said before, the jimping is outstanding. It feels sharp without feeling like, it feels sharp in a good way. The forward choil is pretty good, and you can choke up far enough that you can still do a lot of fine detail stuff, and it's completely fine. It's really good. I do like the ergonomics a lot. This G10 is grippy enough without being obtrusive. Now, there are no hot spots whatsoever. I can squeeze this as hard as I want, and I don't feel that clip. It doesn't leave a mark or anything. Very good ergonomics, which you'd expect. This is a Sal Glesser design. He's very good at ergonomics. You see his little maker's mark there. excellent ergonomics. Really do like it. Carry wise, it's okay. The carry wise is the thing that I would knock it down for. You guys know I'm a sucker for, I don't like knives to stick out a whole lot. And as you can see, with the pocket clip, this one absolutely does. It has the Tenacious style pocket clip with the ridiculously oversized lanyard tube hole. And so you're going to have, let's just look. Let's line it up against one of these lines here. Trying to look at the camera. Yeah, you've got, what is that? These are 1/2 inch squares. 3/4 of an inch, or maybe even more, sticking up out of your pocket. I don't like that. I'm never gonna like that. Yes, there are a lot of aftermarket deep carry clips that would completely solve that, but those are, you're looking 20, 25, 30 bucks, and you already spent 62 on the knife, and then you got to buy a clip if you want it to carry low. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. But other than that, it carries pretty well. It's very light. If you don't care about it sticking out of your pocket, I know I'm crazy about that. A lot of people don't care. It is a very thin handle. It's very light. It carries very well, other than you just got to know a lot of it's going to be sticking out of your pocket. But a knife this size, a lot of people don't carry clips at all. I've had a lot of people say that when I complain about the Para 3, sticking out so much. People are like, I took the clip off. I don't even use it. I just stick it in my pocket. A lot of people might do that with a knife this size. It is small enough to do that. So, and the thickness, it's a Spyderco. It's pretty wide. But I will say, in my pocket, your hand's going by here, it did not feel obtrusive at all, reaching by it. It's just that it stuck out a bit. That's the only real problem I have with the carry on it. Deployment, I will say that it is smoother than the Tenacious or the Birds, absolutely. It is Spidey flickable, absolutely. That was a middle finger flick. Let's try the thumb flick. It's completely flickable. You gotta get a bit of wrist, but it is definitely smoother than any of those. I wouldn't say it's any freer. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's smoother, but it's not any freer than any of those. I can flick open a Tenacious just as easy as I can this, but this just feels a bit smoother and nicer, which is kind of what they're going for. They're trying to make it, a little more expensive feeling. And that's kind of the problem I have with this knife. I like it. There's no big flaws with it. It's comfortable. The blade's good. All those things. But I kind of feel like this knife was designed in a board meeting. I just feel like they looked at the Tenacious, they looked at the Birds, they looked at the rest of their lineup, and they said, all right, we want something better than the Tenacious and Persistence, but we want it not to be quite as expensive as the other stuff that we make. And, they designed this. And it kind of feels like in the automotive world, you'd call it a parts bin special. It was just like, all right, let's put BD1 steel. We got that. Let's put BD1 steel on this. We make the G10 a little bit nicer. And then we'll charge, what are we going to charge for it? I don't know. What the other one's 44, the Delicas and stuff, and the Natives you're getting into 75, 90 bucks. Let's make this in the middle. Let's make it 62. I just kind of feel like that's how this knife came to be. Was they were just trying to hit a price point. It's a good knife. It's a very good knife. Don't get me wrong. But I just kind of feel like it was a boardroom decision. I don't feel like there was a lot of inspiration in the Alcyone or the Polestar. I think they just wanted to hit a price point, wanted to get in there. That's kind of how I feel. I don't know how you guys feel about it. It's still a great knife. I'm not knocking it. I would not laugh at anybody if they bought one. I'm not in a huge hurry to get rid of this one or anything like that. But it is, I just feel like it was designed in a boardroom. Works well, but I feel like they could have done a more inspired thing. Or, if they want to get really crazy, they could have put regular black G10 on this and gotten rid of the Tenacious and the Persistence, or just called this the Tenacious 2 and the Persistence 2 black G10 for a little bit cheaper, and everybody would have been happy. But yeah, it's not what happened. They decided to come out with another line. But this is basically just the nicest Spyderco Persistence that you can possibly buy, which nothing wrong with that, I guess. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.